Hey everyone, welcome back. So in today's video, I want to talk about Canada's ambassador to the United States, Kirsten Hillman, who has officially resigned and is stepping down from the role. I'll be honest, if I was in her shoes, I might do the same thing as well. Because to be real, in 2025, and especially this political climate, it probably has to be one of the most stressful positions a Canadian could hold right now. I mean, can you imagine just being in Washington talking to the US government all the time? Today I'm going to give my non-expert Canadian thoughts on what this actually means. And we're also going to talk about the latest threat that the orange guy is now throwing around at Canada. Before we get into that, today's backdrop comes from Peter, who sent in this snowy photo from Stittsville, Ontario, along the Trans-Canada Trail. And yeah, I'm definitely seeing a lot more winter photos lately. Part of me does really miss the snow and the cold, crisp air. But maybe it's because it's like 31 degrees and I'm sweating my ass off here. So thanks for sending this in, Peter. I really appreciate it. All right, let's get into the first report on Ambassador Kirsten Hillman's resignation.
Ambassador Hillman, thank you for being here tonight. Ambassador, you've made it very clear that the decision to go was yours. But I have to let you know that when the news came out, the reaction of a lot of people was a bit of confusion. You know, you were promoted to chief negotiator with the U.S. in the summer. You effectively have the most experience and face time with the Trump administration. So why go now in the middle of this tough moment?
Right. Well, thanks for having me. And look, I think where I'd start is, I'm in my 9th year here in Washington, and I've been ambassador for 6 years. When Prime Minister Carney came in the spring, he and I had a discussion. He asked me to stay for the transition and sort of the transition of Canada's new government, but also in the first months of the Trump administration. I agreed to do so, but I did say to him that I was wanting to leave in 2026.
So Ambassador Hillman is leaving on her own accord. This wasn't sudden, and she already gave the Prime Minister a heads up about her decision. Now, I know what some people are going to think. Why leave now? We're in a trade war. We need all hands on deck. Or, she couldn't handle the pressure. She took the easy way out. But honestly, I don't see it that way at all. And towards the end of the interview, she actually explains why she stepped away. What she says is that a big part of it comes down to being away from home and being away from family. Yeah, this part really hits home for me, because I can relate. So personally, I don't hold it against her at all for making that choice.
And so right now, we are at a phase where more and more our discussions are going to be part of the CUSMA, the Canada-US-Mexico Trade Agreement review, which is starting up in earnest in the new year. And it's the right time to put a team in place that's going to be here to see those discussions through. So it just seemed like a natural point.
So your resignation didn't come as a surprise to the Prime Minister at all?
No, this is something that we've been working on together.
If you thought that your continued presence at the table with the Trump administration would help, would you stay?
I have been a public servant for 30 years. And I have been, for most of that time, a trade expert and negotiator. I have devoted my life to, promoting Canada and Canadians' interests. And I would not make a decision that I felt was not good for Canada. And I feel that the decision right now, as I say, is at a time when we can make a transition to a team that can see these negotiations through. I am here as an advisor and a guide to them. And I'm here for a little while too to make sure that transition goes smoothly. So I put Canada first.
From what I've read, Ambassador Hillman has been in this role since 2019 up until now. And that's a long time to be away from home. But in my opinion, things really changed this year. And maybe we do need a fresh voice in Washington representing Canada. Now, like I said earlier, I won't pretend to be an expert on this topic, or on her performance in the last 4 or 5 years. But whatever worked for the Biden administration is probably not going to work for the Trump regime. And honestly, whoever takes the next role is going to walk into one of the toughest jobs imaginable, having to deal with Trump and his minions.
And that's, in fact, why I think right now is the right moment to move along.
So in a way, then, is perhaps a new face key to maybe restarting trade talks?
I think what we're going to see is, as I say, more and more our discussions with the United States will be centered around the review of the CUSMA. Obviously, we will be fighting hard for steel, aluminum, autos, lumber in the context and, where in whatever format is most effective to provide relief for Canadians as soon as possible and those affected sectors as much as possible. But we've been in discussions with Mexico and with the U.S. around how we're going to move forward in the new year in that particular structure, the CUSMA review structure. So I think we're going to see that be the dominant place for the discussions.
Are you of the view that trade talks will start before the CUSMA deadline comes up?
Well, yeah, I think what we're going to do, what I know we're going to do is that we are going to start meeting with the United States, with Mexico, with all three of us together in the new year. And we will be preparing our analysis. We've all done consultations. We'll continue to do those consultations at home. We will be preparing analysis around what we think could be achieved in this review, whether there are changes to the agreement we think are important at this time. And that work will start, as I say, in the new year. And then it sort of comes to a discussion point at the political level, at the ministerial level in July.
Now, when it comes to CUSMA or any kind of trade deal with this guy, my mindset always comes to worst case scenario first. And the first worst case scenario I can picture is CUSMA's dead, no agreement between Canada and the US, no agreement between Mexico and the US. Well, maybe Canada and Mexico can do something. I don't know. When that all happens, everything will start to fall apart. Businesses will get hit, consumers get hit, all three countries feel it. And it really sucks that my mindset has shifted to always expect the darkest outcome when it comes to the US. But hey, it's 2025. Now, if somehow a new CUSMA deal actually does get confirmed by all three countries, I would consider it a success. But at the same time, I don't want to give any more favors to the US either. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with me on my very non-expert opinion on this. And hey, if you find any value on these videos, don't forget to like and subscribe as well.
You're a diplomat. I hear you being diplomatic. What won't you miss about this post?
Oh gosh, look, it's been the privilege of my professional life to be here and to have this great privilege, but like heavy responsibility. I'm looking forward to coming home. I'm looking forward to spending time with my parents who live, out west, who I see less than I'd like to. I'm looking forward to reconnecting with Canadians. One of the greatest privileges of this job is how many Canadians reach out to me literally every day and express support, give me their perspectives, but primarily express support and try and shore up the team here. And I am so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for the trust that Canadians have put in me, that the Prime Minister has put in me, that previous Prime Minister put in me, and I'm gonna miss that. But I'm looking forward to coming home.
Ambassador Hillman, thank you. Best of luck.
I can actually relate to this. Now, I'm not saying I'm anywhere near the same level of responsibility as Ambassador Hillman. I'm just an average YouTuber with 2 cats and one of them is very loud, and a job that's nowhere near as stressful as hers. But I've been away for about a month now, and something that's always on my mind. It's a 24-hour trek for me to get back home. And I guess what I'm really trying to say is to everyone back home, don't take for granted the physical time you get to spend with your family and friends. Now, as for the new ambassador and whoever fills up that role, I really do hope Canada puts someone who can take the heat from the Trump administration. Because the next 2 years is going to be absolutely critical for how our trade partnerships with our dysfunctional neighbor moves forward. Now, funny enough, when I first saw the title of this report, I actually thought it was Pete Hoekstra who was resigning. And I was actually cheering. Then I read it over again. I was like, shit. One can only wish, right? All right, moving on. Speaking of trade, this is the latest threat to Canada. I really don't know if this is something Trump should be playing with. Because if I'm not mistaken, something like 90% of the potash that the US uses comes from Canada. So yeah, let's take a look at this report.
Mined from deep within the prairies, potash is as vital to plants as it is to Saskatchewan's economy. But Scott Moe is taking the latest tariff threat from the U.S. president in stride.
When comments like this come, we take a breath, take the president seriously. Don't always take him literally, word for word, with respect to what he says.
And so we'll end up putting very severe tariffs on that if we have to.
It's not the first time the U.S. has threatened tariffs on Canadian fertilizer, but after pushback from American agricultural groups and Republican lawmakers in farming states last spring, tariffs on fertilizer exports not covered by the Canada-U.S.-Mexico Free Trade Agreement were reduced from 25 to 10%.
Now, with the US relying on Canada for potash at such a high percentage, and with the farmers already knowing that it isn't a good idea, I'm going to refer to Todd Maffin's reaction to it.
This week, Donald Trump threatened very severe tariffs on Canadian potash. It's a kind of fertilizer. Well, I have been deputized by the entire country to provide a response. And that response is, fucking do it, bud. Do it. Do it. We're ready. We can't wait.
Man, I really wish I could do the same expressions as Todd. Anyways, back to the point. Trump is going to hurt the US farming sector even more than he already has. So honestly, go ahead, Trump, and do it. Because all that's going to do is give me more reports to cover on mega farmers crying about it later on. Now, obviously, this wouldn't be good for anyone, not even Canada. One of our biggest customers would be probably cutting back on how much they import from us. But at the same time, we do export to other countries as well. So Trump, if you really want to burn your own house down, let me just grab my kokanee first and pull up a chair and wait for those MAGA farmer reports to start rolling in.
Farmers had already been facing higher fertilizer prices, higher energy prices, but now they're facing a squeeze on most of their inputs, fertilizers. There's been a big increase in tariffs already on pesticides, herbicides, fungicides.
According to Statistics Canada, potash was the top mineral exported to the United States in 2024, largely coming from this deposit in Western Canada, with a total value of $4.2 billion. Canada is also the biggest global producer of potash, with Canada, Russia, Belarus, China, and Israel combining to produce more than 80% of the world's supply. In a statement, Fertilizer Canada says imposing tariffs on potash would jeopardize a deeply integrated trade relationship vital to agricultural producers in both countries, adding that the U.S. does not have sufficient mineral reserves to meet domestic demand.
You know, I actually think that the president was probably alluding to maybe some other products as well, because at the end of his comments, he had said that if you tariff it, you're able then to produce more in the U.S. And in the case of potash, that's a little bit of a different conversation.
Don't underestimate Trump. He probably thinks it grows on trees.
Canada's agricultural industry already feeling the pressure from steep Chinese tariffs on pork, canola, and seafood, hoping to avoid another hit.
This is exactly why whatever deal we make with the US, whether it's a renegotiated Kuzma deal or something else entirely, we need to stop giving the US favors. Some of you might agree with me, some of you might not. But personally, I think we need to start taking a hard look at those steep China tariffs and seriously improving our trade relationships with them instead. I still believe that the EV tariff should be lifted in order to help the canola industry. We only slapped a 100% tariff on them because the US told us to. I actually sat in my first BYD car a couple days ago, and to be honest, they're actually really nice. So I have to ask, why should we stay loyal to the US right now? With the Canadian ambassador to the US resigning, multiple trade deals up in the air, there's a lot of big decisions coming up for our government. And yeah, I fully understand that some of those decisions are going to make the baby in the White House pretty mad if things don't go his way. And sure, some of it might be painful at first, but in the long run, it moves Canada closer to being less reliant on our dysfunctional neighbor to the south. Now, the one decision I'm watching closely, and I hope we hear whether or not Canada drops the F-35s and goes with the Swedish Gripen fighter jets. That move would absolutely set Trump off. But it would also send a very clear message that Canada is moving on. Alright, that's all I got for today's video. And if you're wondering where the cat has been, she showed up once earlier, took a look at today's topic, and decided she wasn't interested. I don't know where she is right now. But I guess you'll have to wait until the next video for her cameo. If you enjoyed today's video, it really helps the channel if you hit the like and subscribe and share it with your friends. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll catch you in the next one.